Why don't you go ahead and share? So you do murals as well, and you're sharing with us in your program here the mural that was uncovered that you did roughly 35, 40 years ago.
Yes.
Why don't you share that story and kind of how someone reached out to you? Why don't you start with how you did it, and then how the years later someone reaches out?
Okay, when economy was kind of going down, I thought, boy, I'm going to have trouble if I don't, sell more. I had a family to take care of, and bills to pay, and artists have those. Even though people say artists, boy, you're special. Yes, we are special because we have this talent, but it takes more than just talent to make a living and pay the bills. Because if they don't get those bills, you don't go far.
No, not at all.
Walt Disney, bankrupt 3 times. He had the talent, they had the drive, but he still had problems.
Yeah.
And so you have to work at it. And so to be able to really go after this, you have to really keep after it. Yeah. And so what was...
You're starting to get to where you, I assume, had to advance what you're offering and your product. So that's how you got to the mural.
Okay, yes.
And then the one that ended up getting covered.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. I was in school and thought I would be able to make a living that way. And then someone asked me to come out to their house and go to the basement where they had this big game room. And there was one big wall with a window at the top. And they asked me, can you cover that with a cowboy scene? I said, well, sure I could. Well, I had no idea if I could or not. But I wasn't going to admit it because I needed some bucks too. So, and I've been out west, I know how the cowboys and Indians atmosphere looked. So I gave them a rough draft of what I could do, and they're 27-foot long mural up to the ceiling, which is about 8 foot. And they said, "Doy, go for it." Well, I had to cover that with a gesso, and it had a good surface, but I needed a better surface with this material called gesso. And I could describe that in some areas of my work. Anyway, once that is dry, then I take this Conti crayon, which is made in France, and it's earth tones, and it's not like pastel because I can use water with it. I would draw with that, get that atmosphere of the cowboy and the dust from the horses and so forth, and then I would smear it with water and a paper towel. Anyway, it took about a month to create this whole entire 27-foot mural, and they loved it. They lived with it for years, and that was about 40 years ago. I'd forgot all about it. That took me off onto the murals. I didn't do any more of the Conti crayon. I went into acrylic paint, and I've had people film me as doing their murals on the acrylic paint or in oil. I did that on canvas. I rolled them up and then sent it off to like New York, where Marriott would unroll it, and then he would glue it to the wall, to the foundation. And I did that for Holiday Inn, many of the big chain murals. And the one I did in Upper State New York, Mr. Marriott took a look at that and congratulated me in their opening of their brand new motel and said, that is really stunning. And for Marriott to Willard Marriott is his name, it's a foundation. He founded it. He said, that's a beautiful thing. And so that was pretty big, pat in the black, almost as good as the money. It was pretty nice.
Yeah. Right. So you did that one, and then you'd forgotten about it.
I'd forgotten all about it. And all these other 31 murals came along and went. And then somebody sent me a little video of them taking apart a wall. They had found this, and when they bought this house, moved in, they could tell this wall was just temporary. and it was kind of covering something up. And they couldn't really see what's behind it. It was really pushed against it. So they started tearing things apart, and there was a mural behind there, drawings with color. And so they took all off, and then they found a name, and they had no idea about me. And they looked up, they Googled my name. This was about 8 months ago. And they sent me this little video, and I couldn't believe that was in perfect condition after all this time.
Yeah. That's absolutely, I love that story. You were sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how cool, Victor and I like to buy homes, and we may flip them and do some work on them. I can't imagine, like tearing down a wall and finding something as beautiful as that. And it held up, over years. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah. So guys, he brought a flyer. I don't know if you can see from the camera, but this is the mural he's talking about here. And then we can add it later with the zoom. But it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's a very big one.
And you can go to www.david-garrison.com. You should be able to take you right to the website, see a lot more information on David here. But yeah, that's just amazing.
David, go ahead.
This material called Conticran, I use it a lot in the galleries in the West because they like this Wild West look. And when I did many of them, but one person Googled me and asked me, he said, "Is this yours?" She sent me a picture of it. I found this painting in a used clothing store. It was just hanging on a wall for a price tag of $5. And I bought it mainly for the frame, but this picture was interesting.
Yeah.
And asked, "Is that really worth anything?" And I zoomed in on it and said, "Well, that's in perfect shape. Yes, that's worth about $800 now." And she was stunned. That was just amazing to her.
That is crazy.
Best $5 she ever spent.
Yeah, that's what she thought.
Right.